Hey, everybody. This is the Enduring Minds podcast, where we explore the intersection of endurance sports and mental health, part of the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Please rate, subscribe, review, drop comments, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us get these stories out to more people. I'm one of your hosts, Evan Birch, and I'd like to introduce my lovely co-host, Jason Bahamundi. Jason.
What's up, dude? How are you?
Good. Marathon training, physical, mental, where are you at?
Physically, if you ask me this question on Sunday evening, Monday, or Tuesday, I'd be like, I'm a total wreck. But then Wednesday, I actually had a really good run, and I'm excited to get my run in today. And so then obviously the mental side goes with that, right? Like if I'm down in the dumps after Sunday's run, I'm like, this whole thing sucks. It's going to be the worst race ever. And now things are picking up. So I'm excited. But I will say this, we just posted the Oakland Marathon panel discussion we had. And Coach B on that show, if I just go back and watch it, dude, I will be fired up. Like he is so into Oakland and the community and everything that goes on there that it just uplifted my spirits talking to him for an hour.
Yeah, beautiful.
How about you? I know you're recovering. Before we bring our guest on, how are you?
Yeah, I'm getting back to some mileage, no pain, a little bit of soreness, but I'm very excited to be able to get back to some proper training and planning by the end of this month, and just slowly building a little bit of a base and a little bit of mileage right now, and enjoying it and doing strength and taking care of myself. So all is firing, and I'm very excited to get back at it.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah. So you and I had a conversation a little while ago that we wanted to have some women on our podcast. We've been primarily interviewing men, and we felt like there was a little bit of a void in having these discussions and getting a little bit of a different perspective. So March happens to be International Women's Month, which we didn't plan either. It just so happened that it kind of fell in line. So today's guest, I actually met, her name is Sophie Grant. I met her at the Kendall Mountain Film Festival. We both had films in the festival, my Supernova documentary and her documentary entitled Off Course, along with ultrarunner Stephanie Case. And her story really spoke to me, and I'm so grateful that Sophie agreed to be on our podcast, because I think she's a very strong voice in this area, in the endurance world, and her perspective. So I'll just give a quick little drop here that Sophie just finished the winter spine race, which is 268 miles, which is absolutely incredible. We'll let her tell us a little bit about that. But Sophie is a world-class ultra runner, coach, and her powerful documentary Off Course, where she breaks the silence on the private and often invisible struggle of infertility and loss while chasing her goals. So today we're going to dive into her recent podium finish at the Winter Spine Race, as well as her partnership with her husband George, her dog Mila, and how we can all better support the people we love when life goes off course. So please welcome Sophie Grant to the show.
Hi guys, it's really exciting to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for agreeing to this, Sophie. I think when I first met you, I knew there was something about you that just lighted up the room, and I'm so grateful to be able to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be here, because it's quite something to be asked to be on this podcast.
It's like Evan said, we didn't plan on International Women's Month and having two female guests, but the timing is right. And so being able to have this kind of conversation during this month, it's extra special. Like as we, and we'll get into it, like I have, like the feelings are already here for me for this conversation. So I didn't bring tissues with me. I probably should have.
I honestly, after listening to some of your other episodes, bawling my eyes out, I was just like, oh, I think I probably should have bring tissues to this.
Well, you have listened to a few of the episodes, so I'm sure you know what question we're going to ask. Who is Sophie Grant?
It's such a tough one. I've been thinking about this ever since I listened to your episodes. And I guess I'm so many things, right? I'm me. I am uniquely myself. I am an adventure seeker, moss lover, ultra runner, athlete, coach, hairdresser, Kiwi, kind of honorary Brit. Like, just, yeah, there's a lot of different ways that I would describe myself.
I think for the first time ever in 25, 26 episodes, the word myself was was the first word out of a guest's mouth. And that is, not only is it unique, but I think it's the best answer anybody can give, right? Because we are the sum of all the parts. And sometimes I think when people answer that question, there's also a recency bias that comes along with it. Like if we had asked you who you were after you had just done a run, you might answer, I'm a runner, because you just finished running. Or if you said hairdresser. So if you had just finished doing somebody's hair, that might be the first thing you respond with. But saying myself, I don't think I've ever heard that. Why do you think that that was the thing that came out first?
Because I feel like I've lived so many lives. Like I have never just been one thing. I wasn't a runner in my earlier years. I am not a hairdresser now, really. And like I guess there's just so many things about my personality, I guess, that kind of describe me. I mean, I think yeah, I don't know. I guess it's because it's just me. It's
It takes a lot of perspective to have that type of an answer. If you think back to when you were younger, like when do you think you started to gain perspective on this is me? Like was there a moment in time when you were like, this is who I am, this is my story, and I'm going to live my truth now?
yeah, I think probably so my husband and I, we moved to London when I was 20. We weren't married at the time, but we kind of burnt ourselves out there. We did, I don't know, 16 years, and we moved into a camper van. We just threw everything away, great jobs, everything, and just were like, it was mainly me. I was not okay. He was burnt out. And so we moved into a camper van and we just drove off. And we spent 7 years living in that camper van. And so all of a sudden you just have this space to explore and to kind of, I guess, redefine who you are. And it's, I think probably that was a pretty defining moment for me of figuring out who I am and what makes me tick, even though I'd been doing all of those things a little bit anyway, to kind of take the rug out from underneath you of the security of the things that everybody expects you to do and to just leave really made me embrace all of these parts of me.
Yeah, it takes a lot of, I'll say, confidence and self-exploration to find like who we truly are, because we hide behind these titles and these jobs and these accomplishments, ultra runner, podiums, whatever it is. Like you go to a party and somebody asks like, who are you? And people start talking about their job or what they do. And I would rather know like, who are you as a person? Like, what are you? Are you a kind person? Are you an empathetic person? Are you a really good friend? And I think those are the things that we can't really figure out unless we take ourselves away from something for a while. So on our podcast, we often ask about if movement is for healing or hiding. And I know we'll get a little bit more into it, but through your ultra running, is that also a way that you've been able to discover who you are?
I'm so sorry. I think, is that me?
It might be my end. I'm not sure why it's happening.
We'll get there. Did you hear the question?
I did not.
So we often talk on the podcast about how healing or hiding with regards to movement And I know we'll get a little bit more into the fertility journey that you've experienced alongside this, but through Ultrarunning, is that how you've been able to escape, process, and also understand more about who you are?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
What is happening, folks? We should be more stable now.
Okay.
We can do a little bit more editing after it, Jason. And back
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to jump back and we can just take that whole section out. So I'll just go into the question. Okay. So I understand, obviously, figuring out who you are through that journey. And is it through the Ultrarunning that you've been able to discover who you are in a more profound way?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the act of being outside in the world, moving, it's given me everything. It's, it's my space to process. It's my space to grieve. It's my space to find joy. It's my, like, I really love being outside, moving through the world under my own steam. And like, certainly, like, I came to running just as a way to lose weight, and kind of stayed in it because with the hairdressing, like, it's quite intense. When you're really busy and you have these people coming in all day, and they've really, like, yeah, it's just a really intense space. And because I tended to build relationships with my clients that were very
This is ridiculous.
I don't think it's me, but I can get my husband's in IT, so I can get him to check.
It might be me, Sophie, in this location where I'm at in our apartment building, because I had this issue a couple of days ago, and I don't have it in my apartment. So we'll do our best. Worst case scenario, Evan, I'll drop out, so then you can keep it running, and it should be okay on your end.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just try it here. Is it the internet cutting out on your side, Jason? Is that what it is?
The internet's not cutting out, but it seemed like, I don't know why it's just dropping the guest, or you for that matter, at the same time. Like, there's nothing that's happening on the screen that is doing it. So it could also just be a restream situation too.
Okay.
Ironically enough, Restream sent me an invoice just now too. So
little feedback.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you just want to continue where you were, Sophie, we'll just do our best to chop it out there.
Yeah. So, the hairdressing is a really intense environment. You're with people all day, every day. And, like, I wasn't one of these smart hairdressers that, like, didn't talk to their clients. I, like, was talking from the moment I started to the moment that I finished. And the running then became just my silent time, my space, my, like, time to just shut up and be quiet. And like that really made London somewhere that was, when things started to get very, I guess, stressful and busy, like, it made London a much easier place to be because I always had my time. And then, once you start running in the mountains and you realize that there's all of this beauty out there that you can just be a part of. Yeah, it definitely has helped me define who I am.
Can I ask, were you a road runner before you found your way into the mountains?
So I started road running. I started running, like, did the couple of half marathons, and then I wanted to do London, Paris, and New York marathons because I was, into design, and I was like every good designer. And so I started running marathons, and my husband's father had run ultras, and so he'd always told me about these sort of things. And, like, I got to that point where I was like, I either need to start running these marathons much faster, or I need to go further. And my husband brought me a place in the Marathon des Sables as a birthday present. And it just was like, here you go. So that was, like, my introduction into, like, the idea of running further. And then I just tried to run every ultra I could get my hands on to get ready for that.
So I want to follow up on Evan's question with the idea of, were you unable to find that peace and solace from hearing your clients in the hairdresser and your own scenarios on the road, that getting into the mountains and road running cityscapes, for some people that is solace, and for others the mountains and the trees is solace. So were you unable to find that peace in the streets, and so that's where the mountains gave you that sense of the world is bigger than me and I can process out here?
Yeah, definitely. That feeling where you are like the smallest thing in the world when you're in these massive mountains. There's nothing like it. But I think for me, I chase fun and I chase joy and I chase, I'm really lucky. My parents brought me up with a very strong sense of play. Like, I really love to play, and the road marathons, you're trying to get seconds off a time, right? You go out into the mountains and you do these big mountain races and you can make hours of difference. Like, I think there was a lot of things that kind of fell into place for me when I sort of started hitting the trails. I was less, like, the impact is a lot less on your body as well. So you kind of like, oh, well, I can do it more. The idea of running on the roads, and I'm sorry, I hear about to do a marathon.
Beautiful. But I am a trail runner as well. So, it's an interesting scenario, and I don't mean to hijack your response, but you mentioned looking for fun, and it's not that I wasn't having fun in the mountains and the trails, but the way this whole thing came about, it was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Let's give it a try again and go back to that and do a new challenge kind of thing. So that's where the scenario has changed for me for this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, it's always ticking around in my head too, but just like, oh, how fast could you go now you know more? For me personally, the idea of it's tricky because I don't want to give up the mountain time to actually have to put proper training in for marathon training. But yeah, I think the idea that I could go and explore different environments and different situations, and it just opens up so much.
I will say that you said it's less impact on your body until you trip and fall, which is what happened to me on Saturday.
I am sure that I hurt more after doing a road marathon than I do after 100 miler.
No doubt. There is no doubt.
Yeah, and I've said it before a few times. I've never ran a road marathon. I went from a half marathon and I went right into the trails 30K and just like kept going. So I still haven't figured out when I'm going to do that. It will be eventually, I'm sure. But and I find road running to be so extrinsic. Like, you're constantly looking at your watch, checking pace, checking time, whereas trail running is very like internal. Like, you can learn so much in even a 20-kilometer trail run in the city from my front door than you can on the road. Like, it's just this like repetitive motion all the time. And I just think there's such a beauty in it that you don't get in the road running side of things.
Well, so this is gonna blow your minds a little bit. My fastest road marathons, I had no information from my watch.
Good for you.
I had a coach who basically was like, whatever your watch is telling you, you're not going to want to see.
Yeah.
Like, it is not going to give you good feedback. Like, it's going to give you either running too fast, you're running too slow. It's, your pace is like all of this sort of stuff. Your heart rate's up, your heart rate's low, all of that sort of stuff. So he actually started making me run without all of that data, and really just learning how to check in on myself. Right? Is this pace right for me right now? Is this sustainable? Can I? And it's been amazing to take that into trail running too.
How does that translate into life too, right? Because there is so much around us, right? And if we incorporate life as road running, there's stuff coming at us constantly. And so we remove ourselves from the road and that data to get into the woods, and however long we're there, we do that stuff. Like, how do you do that with life when there's almost like no off button the way the world works today?
I certainly have found in the last few years that I have had to heavily curate my space, because certainly going through all the IVF stuff, like I couldn't have someone I didn't know pregnant on my Instagram feed because I couldn't. It was too heartbreaking. So I had to go through and unless you were a very dear friend of mine, you were gone. And I find that with a lot of data, like because I am quite, I guess I'm quite sensitive, and I think that if something is not serving me, like I just have to. Even today, I've gone through my watch and taken off all of the like sleep and HRV and stuff like that, because since the spine, I've been like really checking it, right? And I'm like, oh, is it? And actually, that's not been helpful for me. So I've just removed it. So I've definitely gotten a lot better at trying to make sure that the things that I have coming in at me are things that are helpful, or not even helpful, like I've started watching a lot of pottery on Instagram. Great.
This quote popped up in my mind that I've used and said before. You can't intellectualize yourself to faster. You have to get out of your head and into your body, and all of these performance metrics and all these wearables and whoops and Oura rings, and like nothing against them for people that feel like that's what they need. But it's just like you, Sophie, I don't wear my watch to sleep now. I took everything off. I shut it all off. I'm like, I want no phone in the room. I want nothing near me, because I'm like, there's all of these extra things that have been thrown at us are supposedly supposed to help us, but it's actually paralyzing us.
Yeah.
It's
As a coach,
yeah.
It's great to have some of that data, right? Like
absolutely.
My poor athletes, I'm like, don't run too fast at the start, and but also don't necessarily look at your heart rate. And then if they do, I'm like, your heart rate was high. But like, as a coach, it's great to have some of that data. But I think it is just so important to decide if it is making you feel bad all the time.
Yeah, I always say that information is great, but I like from the data perspective, but I would rather you tell me how you felt on a run, because I could look at all the data and it could look like you just had like an amazing run, and you could come back to me and be like, I felt like absolute shit. Okay, well, that matters more to me, because now I start asking questions about your sleep and stress and food and all those other pieces as a coach that you're not going to get from a watch.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and also kudos to your husband for buying you your first entry into that. Like, for anybody listening, like if you want to get me a present, I want to accept that. I'm sure my wife will listen to this, and I'm going to subliminally message that. I'm always up for race entries.
That wasn't subliminal.
Yeah, no, sorry. No, sorry. That was very direct.
He was amazing. He used to just, honestly, I'd be at work and I'd get an email and it would be like, you're entered into some 50-mile race. And he would just be like, oh, let's, yeah, very supportive husband.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I want to pivot now to, you've already mentioned the IVF journey. I got an opportunity to see the first showing of your film at Kendall Mountain Film Festival, which was, again, everybody who gets the opportunity to see this film, I could not recommend it more. I think just the story that was told alongside running, and like running was the vehicle for it all, but the story mattered so much more. So if you could talk a little bit about moving from that decision to, van life with George, and now wanting to look at starting a family. And I will say I have a deep connection with this, because I'm actually an IVF baby. Very few people know that. I was actually one of the first in Canada. So yeah, it's so I have a pretty strong connection to that side of things, because I am one.
That must have been quite something for your mom, because things are not great now, but they were, wow.
Yeah, I was a very expensive baby, as I've been told. Let's just say that. So, but yeah, if you could dive into kind of that journey of, and maybe not give too much away from the documentary, but just talk about your story and that decision to move forward with it.
So I was never really sure I wanted children when I was younger. I was having too much fun, right? And also I am adopted. So there's like a lot of stuff that comes with that, for sure. And then I don't know, I held my niece in my arms, and she was 5 weeks old, and I got her to sleep, and you feel like a god, don't you, when a child is crying and you manage to get it to sleep. And I was just like, oh no, I think I want this. And so we sort of started trying, right, but not sort of very hard, like very intensively, and it just kind of nothing was happening. And for anybody that is in this situation, even that is horrendous, right? Every month you get your period, it's just like the worst thing in the world. It's you grieve every single month. And certainly as a runner, you start to wonder if, you're the problem, right? Am I the reason that I'm not getting pregnant? Am I going to find out after a race that I was pregnant and now I'm not? Or there's just so many things start to come into your head, and trying to still enjoy the running, but it's a minefield. And then we left in the van. We decided that I probably needed to go see a doctor, and so I did. My doctor was a bit of a dick. He was just like, well, why didn't you come earlier? I'm like, oh, great. So thanks for that. Anyway, it turned out that I needed to have my fallopian tubes removed, and then IVF became the only option. But this was all during COVID, so nothing was really happening. Everything just kind of got further and further down the line. Nothing was in person. All of the talk about my surgery, the person would just ring me up randomly during the day. So it was a very stressful time. And so then, tried IVF, and Steph approached me and said, look, do you want to make a film about it? And at that point, both of us, neither of us had children. Both of us were going through IVF, and we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. It could have been that we both ended up with beautiful babies, or neither of us ended up with beautiful babies. And so I was like, why not? You know what? This is something that actually needs to be talked about and needs to be out in the open. That's not. So I feel very privileged to be in a situation where I'm comfortable and supported enough to talk openly about this sort of stuff. So I kind of feel like I should do it so that other people feel like they might be able to, or just to give it some space out there. But yes, no, unfortunately for me, the IVF, it didn't work. And it did work for Steph, which is amazing, of course, but also comes with all that other stuff for me, right? But so it's quite a harrowing journey, to be fair.
I wrote the word risk down here as you were talking, because you said we could both have beautiful babies, or neither of us could have beautiful babies, but I didn't hear until the end where one did and one didn't.
Yeah.
And I wondered what the process of making the decision to go forward with this was like, because it was a risk. So was the outcome of telling the story publicly greater than the risk for you if the story didn't end up with unicorns and rainbows?
I mean, life just isn't like that, right? Life isn't unicorns and rainbows. And I think it's really important to me to be real, to be honest and open about, what happens. And when you talk to people about everybody has a story about fertility, right? Like everyone, whether you're male or female, after a certain age, you have some sort of fertility story. And when you start talking to people, so, Steph went through a few miscarriages. Once you start digging into that, you just, I don't know, if it worked out for me or it didn't work out for me, or it worked out for her, or it didn't work out for her, it was just so important that these conversations were happening for me. It was really, really hard to make that video after it didn't work out for me, and my life and my mental health absolutely fell apart. But there are so many people out there who can't talk about this stuff. There's sort of so much kind of still shame around this sort of stuff that it was important to me that if I started it, that I finished it.
It's interesting. We had another gentleman on the podcast who interviews men who have had very deep mental health stories in their journeys. And the number one thing when I asked them that all connected every single one of those guys, the word shame was the word. So for you to hear you say that word in relation to your experience, and likely a lot of the women that have reached out to you from this, and the word shame also be a word, I think this is the reason why having women on our podcast is so important to me, because we are so much alike in so many ways when it comes to that level of the mental health side of things. We're not that different from one another, but it seems like we think there's such a divide, but there isn't. And I think when I heard that word, it just like jumped out at me. I'm like, okay, like it's the same. It's the same word. It's completely different experiences, but the exact same feelings are coming up. And that's what connects us all, is our empathy towards one another, connections. I am certain that you've had a lot of people reach out to you after the film, at the film, any screenings you've been doing. What is it like to know that you're, I would say, I hate to use the word ambassador, but like a voice for fertility in the endurance space? Because it is something that doesn't get talked about very much. Like, this is the first film that I've ever seen that has talked about this in a profound way. All the women that I run with are, I've heard, like you said, everybody has a fertility story. So what is it like being that voice for all these women and having them reach out?
Do you know what? It's really quite powerful. Like, now that I am able to talk about it a lot more, like obviously when it was sort of happening, I was busy putting up as many walls as I could, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, everything's fine. And I've done a lot of work to make sure that I'm able to talk about it, and to have people reach out and say, just like, thank you, because this is how it is for me. Or I've had a bunch of men reach out as well, that's really touching, when they're just like, thank you for talking about it. Thank you for making this film, because like it affects everybody in the situation. It's not like it's just the woman going through it. It actually is, her partner. And it's something that I feel quite strongly about. And it's also something that I am continuing, even though I don't have a child, I am still continually trying to champion like women's support for fertility, because it's wild that for example, UTMB, like up until I don't know whenever it was, didn't have a pregnancy policy. There is a schemo race that we do that if you have a business meeting, they will refund you, but not pregnancy.
Such a
wild,
divide,
right?
such a divide. It is
For the one possible woman that's going to do it on that start line.
Like, I get angry about a lot of things in life, and some of that stuff I could just turn the page on. It's things like this that I cannot understand why this is a thing that actually exists. It's not as if pregnancy is something that started yesterday and you're not prepared for it, right? Like, we've all gotten here over the course in the history of time because somebody was pregnant. And this idea that you couldn't take the time to go look through your T's and C's, which is maybe 3, 4, 5 pages long, right? An hour's worth of reading, and say, there's an issue here, especially as more and more people are speaking up for women's rights. And it's not just women speaking up for women's rights. There are men that are coming in behind them to support them and say, we're on your team as well. And I don't understand why race organizers decide that they're not going to look at their policies for something like this. And so I had a whole different question set up for you because I wrote down the name of a former guest of ours, Michael Bridges, whose wife just delivered a baby through IVF, because you were talking about the partner and what they go through as well. And he shared his story. But now that we're on to this topic of, pregnancy policy, I want to ask you, like, how do we as everyday athletes bring this to the attention of race directors so that we can get those policies changed and updated, and use our voices for good for all?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in the space of racing. And I think that if people don't tell or ask the race organizers to actually care, then they, why would they change it, right? Because they're also filling most of their races with men. So it's like, there's a few races out there that have like 50-50, where we will fill 50% of our ballot with women, right? And like just things like that, that would be game changing for women, right? Imagine if these big races said, not even, like I always say this, not even, but actually I just want to ask for 50% because that is what we should be given. But if they said, look, we have right now 14%, we're going to make it 20. We're going to make it 25. We're going to make it 30, right? And just committed to actually building their female field, that in its like that would make them look at their pregnancy policies. That would make them look at, because the whole sport has been built on men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have two daughters, 8, and she'll be my oldest will be 11 in a few days. And I know that the statistics show that after the age of 14, the rate of dropping out of sport for females is just like increasing every single year after year. And I can't help but think, for my own perspective as a father, for them, going like, that's, to me, it's like when I hear you talk about it in like a very profound way, just going like, all we're asking is for like equal share. Yeah. And for me, as a girl dad, I just go like, yeah, of course. Like, again, like, what can I do? And I think maybe to add on Jason's, like, what can I do from the male perspective of knowing that like this is happening? Like, is there anything that you see that other people can champion from the male perspective to like push this stuff? Because like I have daughters and they're going to be coming into this and they both run and I see it and I'm just like, yeah, I want that for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that thing of pushing races to, I mean, everything, right? Sometimes I love it. I love it when you see a race that lists the women first, right? Just things like this. There's all this assumption that we're just going to put, all of the, like, let's list the top men first. No, how about we list the top women, right? And it's just, yeah, I think talking to the races that do it, like calling out races that don't have these policies. We're seeing a lot of change in this space, and it's really encouraging, but it's 2026. And quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, that is just like far too late. Like, this is the stuff that my mother was championing for, not necessarily in this space, but like equality. And the fact that I, as a 42-year-old, am still having that conversation is just like, come on.
I asked this question on a diversity, inclusion, and equitable panel discussion I hosted, and Rach McBride was on the panel, and they are an accomplished triathlete and gravel cyclist. They have 2 master's degrees that have words that I can't even pronounce. They are an accomplished cellist. And I asked them, when you go to a race and you see male, female, and you do not see non-binary, does it feel like it has removed all of your accomplishments because you're not being seen? And so I will ask you that same question. As a woman, when you read a pregnancy policy that doesn't allow you to move the race to the next year, or the women aren't being showcased and highlighted, and you look through the marketing materials and it's all men. Like, does it feel like you as a woman are being erased and ignored and you don't have a place here?
Yeah, look, it can be really tough sometimes, and certainly when I was going through the IVF, and like when you're going through this stuff, or when you're going through infertility, and you desperately don't want to lose the thing that brings you joy, right? So you want to plan out a race year, but you also just really don't want to actually be racing because you're hoping like hell that you are pregnant. To see that a race does not have something that covers you, like I shed tears over it, because I was just like, I want to do this race. I'm desperate to do this race, but it's very expensive. And if I do manage to get pregnant, I mean, sure, that's fine. I would lose the money because I want the baby far more than I want, the race. But yeah, it just feels like you're never considered.
Have you once heard a race director or a race company give an acceptable response to why they cannot move the entry from year 1 to year 2?
Oh no, do you know what? I do understand that. Some of these races require qualifying stuff, and I do to a degree. I do sometimes understand that, because the thing is that certainly with pregnancy, 1 year is not going to be enough, right? It's like, I don't know, whenever you get pregnant, you're 9 months, you have your baby, you have to then get back to fitness, so really it needs to be a bit more considered than that. And I don't think you necessarily, so the UTMB now actually has a fantastic pregnancy policy. I think it's really great what they've done, and they've included the partners in it, and they've included IVF in it, and they've included, like adopting in it. So I think it's more than just a case of moving it to the next year. But give an option, right? Okay, so this is the option we will give you. You can come and race it in the next, 3 years, whatever you want to do, 4 years, 5 years, however long you want to give it the umbrella for, or we'll give you your money back. And even then, right? Like, I understand when you get into close to a race day and they've spent X amount of money on it. Okay, well, whatever it might be. But even some of the insurance policies that you can take out against these races for, I don't know, if you go and slip off the side of a mountain sort of thing, even they don't really cover pregnancy properly. It's like, if there's a problem, okay, so if I just have a normal pregnancy and everything goes well, then I can't claim insurance on it. But if there is a problem with my pregnancy, then I can. It's a minefield.
Yeah. I think that, like you said, it's so variable across large organizations to small races to other things, that there is no one size fits all answer for everything from the sounds of it. So it's definitely an interesting discussion that I think needs to be talked about more, for sure. I do want to come back to the question Jason was going to ask about partners, because I think, as you say, it's both people are involved when it comes to these things. And I know that you and George are very close. He is he's just like my wife. Like, she is my crew chief. He's your crew chief. Your partners, you're locked in for all of these things. You wouldn't trust anybody else in the way that you do for them to know you. So what advice would you give that you've learned from George through this that other men might be able to take away into the IVF journey that they either might be on or that they went through, that might be able to support them in a different way?
Just find some way of talking about it. Whether that's, with your partner, or it was really tough for George. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to tell his family. He didn't want to. There was a lot of I don't want to be I think he's just I want to be there for you, but I don't want everybody else meddling. right? I don't want everybody else's opinion. And I think that that's really tricky because everybody wants to give an opinion. So just finding some sort of safe space where you can talk about it, be it with your partner, be it with, I don't know, a close friend, just somewhere that you can actually go, this is really shit right now. Like, this is what I'm going through. This is really shit. And I don't know how to show up for my partner who's going through this thing, or I don't know how to talk to her. And, I guess like for me, I found it very hard to give George a safe space to have an opinion that wasn't the same as mine. Right. So I really had to work on that because he wasn't going to talk about it with a lot of other people. Like, I needed to make sure there was some sort of space where it was safe for him to have a different opinion to me. And I think just the fact that we were able to really like lock in our communication over this period was super, super helpful.
I've been divorced twice. And when my now wife and I first got together, I said to her, I need to make a change in my communication style because I was closed in because of a lot of other things. I was not willing to share a lot of stuff. And so I kept it all to myself. And I said to her, we're going to have conversations about everything. And they're not always going to be positive. They're not always going to be kumbaya moments. They're going to be some terse conversations and some tense conversations that we're not going to agree on. But I have to be able to do this with you. Otherwise, this will be a third failed relationship for me. And I'm not interested in doing that. And similar to what you had just presented, she was open to that idea of, I will listen and I will talk to you, but also if I have a difference of opinion, you have to be willing to accept that too. And I don't want to say like laid the ground rules for conversations because that sounds really rigid, but what it did was it allowed me to be open and honest and vulnerable with her. And I don't know that I've ever been happier as a person than I have been since that moment. And kudos to you and to George for having the foresight to have a conversation like that up front, knowing that there were going to be rocky moments throughout this process, right? Because even in the best case scenarios, we still have emotions. Like, things still happen in relationships, and we have to be able to lean on our significant others and say, I'm going through something rough right now, and know that they're not going to judge us for going through something rough.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think, the other thing that has been really helpful in that situation was, like, we decided that it was a good idea for me to have therapy before I actually went through the IVF, and then now afterwards, because I needed somewhere to put a lot of my stuff that wasn't always, to just put it on George. So it was kind of like, because I am, God, I just feel things so, like, I really feel things, right? Like I really feel things. I have, like my dog, I have like big feelings. And like, just to have another outlet for me that wasn't always him was super important too, to just, be able to explore them, to be able to put them to somewhere, to sometimes be able to put them there first and then go to him, like it just, yeah, that was really helpful.
I'm really glad you mentioned your dog. That's another connection that we have. We run with our dogs a lot, which is, again, people don't understand the level of support that an animal can offer during times of like deep pain. I know for me, like Nova had no idea what I was experiencing when I was going through my mental health stuff, but she was there the entire time. So, and I mean, we had Jacob Tonkin on as well on our podcast, who's a fell runner in the UK. I don't know if you've ever seen his documentary, George, about his dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually stayed with him when I was in Kendall. So I got to know him a little bit more. And again, same thing, like, what is it like having a dog like Neela being able to support you as well through the running, through the fertility, through all of the stuff, that the unspoken words. What is it like having that next to you?
So we didn't get Neela until, I want to say, a good year after the failed embryo transfer. And like, it had always been my plan to have a child and a dog, you know, like that was, I was like, well, if you're going to do one, you may as well. I was very gung-ho, and I see now why that might not have been the best idea, but it was like, yeah, if you're going to have one, you may as well have two. But yeah, we waited to get her because I wasn't ready for that to feel like a replacement. You know, I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, you've got a dog. Yeah, but it's not the same as having a baby. Like, it's just not the same. But, you know, since we've had her, like, she has brought so much joy and so much love. And I mean, she is my baby, right? But she's not. But it's, because I was ready to give that love. Right? I had so much love in me. I was really ready to give it to another creature, to give it to a baby. And so now being able to give it to a dog is, it's been really good and really helpful, and has helped me like open up again to the world and to, you know, finding joy in doing different things. And, you know, and she's challenging, right? She's a Malinois. They're not like having a nice little Labradoodle that she needs a lot of stimulation, a lot of attention, a lot of exercise. And so she really has been an amazing addition to our little family.
This has been such a fascinating conversation, and I don't know if it's because I'm all in my feels today, but I've written down way more than I normally have. And here's what I wrote down recently, like therapy equals vulnerable equals strength. And then you use the word failed embryo transplant. And that word failed for a lot of people is a very harsh word. Like, do you use that word because it helps you process it, or is just a word that came out and it is what it is and you didn't think about it? Like,
oh God, I mean, look, honestly, the whole IVF process, I'm sure for everyone, but certainly for me, because I am used to putting my mind to something and making it happen, right? I want to go, I have not DNF'd, and I have run so many races, and I have run very, very long races. And once I start something, I will get to that finish unless you were dragging me off in an ambulance. And so, you know, to have this thing that you aren't able to make happen through like sheer force of will, it makes you feel like you have failed. And, you know, and even the words that they use around, you know, the embryo transfer, right? Like it fails, and that's how they talk about it. You know, I think that for me, the whole process was just like one kind of failure after another. You know, they took out a load of eggs, and I was like, great. And then only one of them was viable. And it's just like, you know, you go from 26 to 1, and that's your option. And then, you know, my doctor, and actually probably very kindly, told me that actually that was, even if I did it again, I was unlikely to get a different result, you know, because of my age and just because of the quality of my eggs. And, you know, it was probably one of the kindest things she could have done to me. Instead of saying you could try again, instead of trying to give me hope that it would work out, she was just like, you know, look, this is the deal. But you feel like you've failed. And I think, you know, people get very upset by the word of failure, that no one wants to fail, but that is how we learn and how we grow, right? So even in your racing, right? Like if you don't get the time you were after, it's like, oh, I failed. Yes, but but you've learned that, you know, like you can, like, yeah. So I don't know if I give the word failure as much weight as some other people,
yeah,
for sure. But yes, I definitely felt like I had failed in that.
I think the other part of what you're saying here as well is honesty, right? So sometimes honesty is harsh. and if we're capable of removing the emotion from the harsh reality that honesty is, then we can learn and process and move forward in a much more, not to put it like in speed terms, but in a faster way. So, because then we can move on to the next thing. Otherwise, we're just delaying that learning process, which then delays how we move past whatever hurdle is in front of us.
Yeah, like it was really important to me because so George wasn't as keen on having a child as I was. He was like, yeah, okay, that sort of thing. And, by the end of it, he was obviously devastated because he really wanted a child too. But we had been in it for so long. And he said, look, I can't keep doing this. So we have to have, and we made an agreement. We're like, okay, let's give it one go, one round of IVF and see what we get out of it. Right. But then to only get one embryo, it was like, well, this is it. And I think he very much needed there to be an end date to my trauma, really, right? Like every day he's watching me in pain. And so he was like, we can't keep living like this. We are not living the lives that we want to be living in either direction because of this. So let's do it. Let's commit to it. Let's, but like there needs to be a stop date because I know people that have been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah. And so I think having that, like, it was really important for me after that when we decided that people stopped trying to give me hope, right? Please don't come at me with, oh, but you could adopt. Oh, really? Hadn't thought of that. Actually adopted, right? Oh, well, you could try surrogate. Oh, well, you could try this. No, I have had all of those conversations with my husband. We have decided as a team what the outcome of that is going to be. We're not going to drag ourselves through that. And so I needed there to be a point where we cut off. And then I worked really, really hard to deal with my mental health and to get myself back into a good space, lots of therapy, all that sort of stuff, so that we could move on. Not move on, but move outwards, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, after all of the moments that you shared in off course, I mean, very private moments that very few people would feel comfortable sharing, which, I mean, again, I'm still blown away at the story and what you felt the world needed to hear and see with regards to this. We haven't even touched on your winter spine race. 3rd place. I mean, this happens in our podcast. We get to the running near the very end all the time. How has that changed? I mean, from sharing those private moments and being probably the most vulnerable you've ever been, would be my guess, to, knocking out something like the winter spine race, coming in 3rd. How has your definition of a strong woman changed from going through all of that pain and heartache and still coming out and being able to, I guess I'll say, be one of these preeminent ultra women in the sport? Like, what is the definition of strength for you now?
I tell you what, the spine has given me a whole new level to dig from for sure. But you know what, this year is a year for me to do some big, scary shit, right? To do some stuff that I never wanted to, wasn't sure I could, wasn't sure I would get to the end of. And the spine was kind of the start of that. And it's the first time that I have, since the IVF process, it's the first time I've really felt fire for projects again, right? Like after the IVF, I just went through the motions, right? Like I had race places and you collect race places and I, raced Lavorado, I raced UTMB, I raced Tour de Giro, like whatever I raced, but it was just on autopilot. There was no kind of this is exciting. And that is why I love to race, right? That feeling of, oh, this is really exciting. And I think, the spine is the start of a year of me just doing some stuff like that again. So I think going through all of this has it's fundamentally changed me, really. I have learned so much about myself and, for good or for bad. And I think it has made me a much stronger woman and much softer, actually, as well. Like, I think those two things have come in tandem.
We could be here all day and night. Like, this is a conversation that could last for hours, because I think I go back to the very first answer you gave to the question of who is Sophie Grant, and you said myself. And we have touched on so many different versions of myself throughout this entire conversation. And I think that by giving that answer and then having this conversation for an hour, you are leading by example that we are more than one person. Like, I can be the athlete that finishes third place in a very, very difficult race, but I can also be soft and sensitive, and I can right, like, and I think oftentimes it gets complicated because we're like, who can I be? Who am I supposed to be? Because we're worried about the outside looking in. We're worried about what, I'm in the States, so I'm worried about what Jane in Joplin, Missouri might think about me. And the reality is I have to worry about who I am, and Jane can make the decision on whether or not she wants to know who I am or move on in life. Is that something that's been a part of who you are for as long as you can remember, or has that evolved over time?
I remember when I turned 30, I was just like, oh, great, I can stop caring what other people think about me now. Like, I don't know what happened, but I was like, I'm great. I love my job. I've got so many amazing friends that I barely have enough time for. I don't need anybody else coming in unless they are amazing. And like, it was really just, it was fantastic to feel like that. It was like, you need to bring something pretty incredible to my table now for me to make space in my life for that. And if you don't like me, that's cool. Like, that's fine. I'm not for everyone. I totally understand that. Like, that's great. So yeah, I think, it certainly evolved, that feeling.
I will, Evan, before you jump in, I'm going to follow that up with, honestly, people use the block, mute, unfollow button liberally. If the person that you are following isn't bringing you joy to your life and you're asking yourself the question of, why am I following them? Unfollow. Like, if you have to ask yourself that question, unfollow. You will bring more happiness to yourself and less exhaustion and headache and heartache following somebody you have no connection to in that sense.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but every now and then I have a little cleanse of my social media. So it's like, nah.
It's very rare. It's very rare that the number goes up these days. Let's just say that. Yeah, it's pretty rare. Yeah. So as Jason said, like, I mean, we could, again, I have a bunch of other questions that have popped into my mind, but I want to respect your time. And we have one question that we've been ending our chats with recently, and it's, what's on your mind right now after this conversation?
Oh, I think it's really brought home how, I don't know, how proud of myself I am, actually. Like, to have been able to share this story, to be able to, hopefully make some change and to possibly get people thinking about, what someone else is going through in a different light, and to know that there are people out there that you can reach out to that understand what you're going through. Whatever you're going through, is you're not alone. And I think it's made me feel really proud of being able to do that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I know you're petting your dog right there too. I'm sorry. Mine is currently sleeping next to me. So, where can people connect with you, and what is that next big scary thing for you this year?
So you can find me on Instagram, Sophie Amy Grant. And the next big scary thing is I'm going to have a crack at an FKT called the Via Alpina. It is the length of the Alps. You start in Trieste in Italy and you run to Monaco, and it is 8 different countries, 2,000 kilometers, a shed load of elevation because it's through all the mountains. I'm super pumped for it. It's like,
you're speaking my language, so I'm like, I mean, you know, I like to run far too, so it's like
I mean, you let me know if you want to come do some days.
Yeah, it's
Pick a country.
When are you doing this attempt?
So the aim is to start in July.
July. Okay, because we'll be in Switzerland in April, so we won't be able to help you there. But this is how my brain works. You're like 8 different countries. I'm like, would it slow her down if she actually had to show a passport that she was passing through all these countries, and that be the thing that was like, I almost got the FKT, but you know, in country 6, the passport stamp didn't work, so I couldn't get through as quickly as I could.
Yeah, no, it's okay. They don't man the borders in the mountains.
pass freely. Well, Sophie, on behalf of Jason and I, thank you for sharing your story in a profound way. I think it's going to impact so many of our listeners, and I'm just extremely grateful and proud of you for having the ability to have these conversations, because I know from my perspective, it helped me immensely being able to start talking about these things when I felt ready. So I'm sure this is just the first of many opportunities that you're going to have to be able to share it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, guys. Honestly, it's a real honor to be asked.
So everybody, thank you for tuning in. On behalf of Jason and myself, please rate, subscribe, review, comment, Spotify, YouTube, all the places you get your podcasts. Again, we're part of the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. On behalf of Jason and I, thank you so much. And until next time, keep going the distance and breaking the silence together.